Hello, welcome to the It's All Good show. My name is Denise Belisle, and I'm a Serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Welcome to the It's All Good show. Who's Lucas here for a chat? Today I have, let me show you who I have. 𝙎𝙧 Chatur, and he's an entrepreneur. So we'll find out what's an entrepreneur as opposed to an entrepreneur in a few minutes. But before we go there, I would like to just introduce the show and let you know why I call it It's All Good. Well, initially it's because of my favorite cup, It's All Good. And I was looking for a name for my show, and I was like, how am I going to call that? What name am I going to give it? As I was drinking my water, sitting by the fireplace. And all of a sudden I look at it and I say, it's all good. And that's my way of thinking, coincidentally. And and because I think before I started the show, I was reading It's All Good out of the cup, but I didn't really pay attention to that. But now I realize that's something I say pretty much all the time. If something negative happened, whatever happened in the past, whether it's positive or negative, but the past is the past. I realize that obviously you can't change the past. So then I started to say, well, it's all good, regardless of what that is. If I stump my toe on a on a bed post on the floor and I'm like, oh, that hurts. So, but that's okay. It's all good. It's not broken, and move on because I can't change the fact that I hit my toe. And things of the future, like if we try to plan different event I like to use the vacation ideas, like people trying to plan a vacation and then they're worrying about, oh, how's the weather going to be? Do I have to wear like a raincoat, or do I have to wear just my bikini, or what do I need to bring? And do they have a fridge in the room, or da 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 da? And the thing is, yes, you can plan, but if things don't turn out the way you expect, well, it's all good. And a lot of time when I pack a vacation, I often say, hey, whatever I forget, I'm just going to buy it or do without, because it's just the way it is. Once you're at your destination and you forgot or you're missing something, it's the past now. You can't change it. So what do you do with it today? So they allow me to live right here, right now, in the moment, and be present to everything that's around me. So that allows me also to have a more balanced life, because it doesn't give me the big up and down of worrying for the future or being angry for the past. It's just keep me more stable. So I highly recommend that you try that. So if you want to know more how to do that, well, book a call with me, and I would be happy to explore that a little bit more with you, so that we can see how you can create your It's All Good for yourself. And I highly recommend that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe and ring the little bell. So whenever I have a new video coming on, then you can watch it and listen to all the interview. Today is interview number 81 with, oh, let me remove this one. There's one running and I don't know which one. This one. Let me invite AlKarim to the floor. Welcome, AlKarim. It's such a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. And I love your story. I love your story, right? How
Thank
you've come up
you.
with the name. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at people that have, like, for example, anxiety, people that it always, I never had anxiety attack, and I can't pretend to know what it's like. But a lot of time when people do have anxiety attack is because they are worrying about something that's coming up in the future, and with the memory of things that had happened in the past. Like things didn't go right the last time. Oh, I'm so worried about what's going to happen this time. And but if you're right here, right now, if you come back to the present, if you stay here and say that whatever que sera, que sera, right? Whatever happened in the future will be as it is. And so that kind of remove all that pressure. So it makes a big,
Yeah.
big difference.
Yeah. The past is definitely not a predictor of the future.
Yes, exactly. So tell me, AlKarim, I'm so happy to have you here. Tell me a little bit about you and what's an entrepreneur, and what do you do? Explain to our audience, what do you do?
Right. Absolutely. So thank you, first of all, for having me here, and thank you
My
for this
pleasure.
opportunity. I'm really excited. So I've been in the business world for over 20 years. And the reason why I call myself an entrepreneur, because I was an entrepreneur. And a lot of times the focus for most entrepreneurs is on the outside. How
Mm-hmm.
much more money do I make? How do I increase my business? How do we increase profits? How do we increase this? It's all based on the outside. And then
Yeah.
we have this aura or this perception that we create about us, right? What house do I live in? What car do I drive? How am I perceived? How am I judged? How am I looking at myself
Mm-hmm.
relative to others?
Comparing.
All of that is very external. You talked about feeling balanced and having this equanimity. That equanimity only comes when you work on the inside. And when you start working on the inside, the
Yeah.
outside becomes a lot more better. Michael Jackson said this really well, right? You're the man in the mirror. You can start wearing all those different facades outside, but you will not have that inner satisfaction, that inner peace that you want. When you look in the mirror, you want to be that equanimous inside and outside. And being an intrapreneur allows you to do that.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what brought you to that conclusion? So what's your background? So how did you come
Sure,
to
sure.
decide
It's a
that?
very sad and interesting background. When I tell people, their first thing is a shock, but I'm happy
Okay,
to
I'm
share
ready.
with
I'm
that. So
facing it.
I ran my own furniture business for almost 20 years, and then one fine winter day, I got a call from the fire department that the building that we operated in was on fire, and I lost everything. I
Hmm.
literally lost everything, not just the materials inside and the fire, but I lost friendships, I lost relationships, I lost money, and it put me into a very dark space. And
Hmm.
that's where I learned about energy healing and how energy is everything. We're energy beings, and for us to be able to feel and sense and acknowledge that equanimity, you have to be vibrating at a higher frequency.
Yeah.
We talk about this past and all of that stuff. It's because we bring that lower frequency within us and we're constantly in that lower mode. And that's why we feel anxious, we feel fear, we feel dread, we feel judged, we judge, we
Mm-hmm.
become more angry. And I used to be that person. I moved from being a very happy, creative, conscious person to one that was almost like, okay, what's going to go wrong? When's the next shoe going to drop? What if
Yeah,
something
you
goes wrong?
hear that a lot from people, right? They say, okay,
Right?
what else
Right?
gonna go wrong?
Right? And then you say what's going to go wrong before it's even going to go wrong. And eventually, we all know this, right? That have been in the mindful space is, your emotions will create your thoughts will create your words will create your actions will create what you want, and it becomes almost this Shakespearean self-fulfilling prophecy. And you're wondering, well, why did this happen? Well, it's the words that you spoke that actually brought about what you were going through,
Mm-hmm.
and so that negativity keeps on following us. And so being an entrepreneur allows you, no matter what is happening on the outside, you're still equanimous, and then you're not reacting, but rather than you're being creative.
I like that. I'm taking note because I do these little video the rest of the week about tips of the day about what I learned from your talk, from every talk. So now I'm taking notes. Like, oh, that's great. I'm going to talk about that.
Right.
So you'll see me write some notes because I'm preparing myself for creating those little tips of the week where I'll bring people back to this talk because I know it's going to be amazing because we're on the same vibration as you noticed.
Absolutely. Well,
We talk,
you
I
attract the
know
same
we
people.
talked about the same thing. And often what I tell people that when you live an experience that is devastating, like losing your business, friendship, and everything, and at that time it's like your life is over and you're depressed and you never think that there's anything good that's going to come out of that.
Yeah.
But when you move forward, sometime you have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then you might say, that's the best thing that ever happened to me for whatever the reason, right? Like you like the literally the phoenix that came out of the ashes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
Well,
allows
yeah,
you to create
absolutely.
something
I
else.
Yeah, I say, you know what? The universe always conspires for your highest good. And if it's conspiring for your highest good, you unfortunately don't have that vision to be able to see into that future of what that future looks like for you. So, yes, you may have been struggling and you go get into this situation that seems like it's a crisis, but to be able to come out of those crises is the only way that you can regenerate yourself, revive
Mhm.
yourself, be that new person, right? in a similar manner as a butterfly, right? The butterfly comes out of the cocoon to be able to fly. At any point, if somebody were to help it, or it were not able to shed its full water, it would never be able to fly, and we would never enjoy the beauty of the butterfly.
Yeah.
So yes, the fire was, yeah, and it still is. There's still certain things, and I'm no different than anybody else that's out there that falls into this trap of past scenarios when something comes up from the past, or you smell a fire, or you see a fire track. Absolutely. Your memories come back, and you're like,
Yeah.
you sort of constrict and stuff like that. But being an entrepreneur allows you to be able to have tools in yourself, in your repertoire, where you can go to them and use them. And that's what I help. I bring up the emotional quotient of individuals that I work with, business owners and professionals, that allows them to tap into that emotion, which raises their vibration as opposed to lowers their vibration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot. And wow, I'm like, wow, so much value into what you're saying. It's unbelievable, because we always have a choice, don't we? We always have a choice to choose the darkness or to choose the light.
Yeah, you know what? I think at every step we have a choice, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
choice is whatever you make. And sometimes we get so attached to our choice, and that's why we say we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But what if you had a choice to make a choice? And you start making your choice in almost, I would say, microseconds. And that microsecond doesn't allow any judgment or any emotion or reaction to be put in there. And so you constantly are evaluating, right? To have that awareness constantly, like I said, to be in the present moment. Because at the present moment, there's no problems, there's no issues. So if you make that choice and you're in the present moment, then you say, well, this is okay. And if you're in the present moment and you feel that that choice is not right, then you move. And I think you sort of alluded to this, right? Is that your body will be able to tell you whether that's the right choice or not. Is, do you feel constricted or do you feel expansive?
Yeah.
Right? And that's a real big lesson that I learned after the fire. I never knew that difference. And I could feel it when I was there, but nobody had told me what the difference was.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you have this headaches, you feel stressed, you feel exhausted, those are all symptoms of your body saying, hey, there's some sort of constriction that's happening in your body, right? And what ends up happening is we actually increase our resistance to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we get less and less of that light that you talk about, right? It's like
Yeah.
electricity. You increase your resistance, you have less light. You decrease your resistance, you have more light. We keep on increasing our resistance so that everything becomes even more difficult. So then the choices that we made are even not as expansive, because we're making them out of a very limited amount
Yeah.
of wisdom
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so let's go to the theme of our talk today, because we didn't even touch that yet. And we have so
Oh,
much.
we sort of did. We'll
Yeah,
come
we
back
did a
to
little bit.
it.
But so what is hope? What does hope mean to you? That's the theme today, hope.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, right, I believe that hope is um, is that we have, right? It is a belief that there will be a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But that hope and that positive outcome belief is also associated with an emotional state, right? And that emotional state is normally one of optimism, one of creativity, one of possibilities. But at the same time, hope has a shadow to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that shadow is fear.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you say, I hope something happens, yes, you're positive about it and you're looking at it in an optimistic manner, but that hope is a belief with the emotion of positivity. Whereas on the other side, you have this probability that it's not going to happen, that things are going to go wrong. So, you
Mm-hmm.
say, I hope you feel better, or hope I pass this exam, or I hope things will go better. And I stayed in that lifestyle for a very long time when I had my business as well, hoping as things were changing for us that it would get better. And so you're constantly relying on something that has no tangible value
Mm-hmm.
because you can't attach yourself to it. and it is just the emotion that you're attaching yourself. And because it is an emotion of positivity, then there exists a probability of failure, which also, on the other hand, has a probability of an expectation. So what ends up happening is that when you have that expectation and that expectation is not met, you go into disappointment. That is where your depression and your anxiety and the fear, all in all, of that falls into play.
Yeah.
Because now you are hoping things to happen, they didn't happen, you get disappointed, so you're now at that lower vibration, and then it keeps on repeating itself. It keeps on repeating itself,
So
and you
how
don't
do you
know that.
stop the cycle?
So it's interesting, right? Again, like I said, I work with different tools and stuff like that that you can use, right? So one of the things that you can do, which is very similar to hope, but slightly at a different level, is faith, right? Now, faith is also a belief, and it is something that doesn't have any concrete nature to it, and you trust it, and there's a bit of confidence with it. Whereas hope doesn't have that confidence,
Mm-hmm.
faith, on the other hand, has confidence.
Okay.
And so you, although cannot touch it, you have that confidence. The second part of hope and faith difference comes in the outcome. When you hope for something, you are already asking for something that you want to go your way. So you buy a lottery ticket and you say, I hope I
I
win.
hope to win.
I hope to win, right? So you know that there's a probability that you're not going to win. But
Big
when you
one.
have faith in something, you not necessarily have an outcome, right? So in terms
Well,
of,
if you try to use that with the lottery ticket, you cannot really buy a lottery ticket and have the faith that you're going to win.
but you have the faith that you say, I don't care what the outcome is. It could be $1 or it could be $1,000,000. It doesn't matter to you because you're saying, I have faith in this ticket that it's going to win. Now, it's not always going to win because
Of
remember,
course,
there's no tangibility to it, but there's
especially
no
lottery.
disappointment as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because with hope, there is this disappointment factor
Yeah. If the outcome
because I have an
doesn't show up.
expectation to win. Whereas with faith, you don't have an expectation to win. You say, you know what? I have faith if I deserve this. Like you say, you know what? It's all good. Whether I
Mm-hmm.
win or I don't win, it's all good. You're not attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when we attach ourselves to stuff and we create those entanglements that issues become a problem. That's where hope becomes a problem. The other difference between hope and faith is love. With hope, we talked about this a little bit in our opening, is with hope there is resistance, but with faith there's love.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do it out of love, then you're not really asking anything for return.
Yeah.
And so you accept the outcome the way it is. So if you didn't win anything on that lottery ticket, yeah, it's all good. I'll win the next one. When you have a hope, you're like, oh, I didn't win. Now what
Yeah.
do I do? Now I spent $20. My $20 are gone, right? You start creating all of these stories.
Yeah.
Whereas if you did it with faith, you know, if I deserve to win this or if I need this, I will win because the universe conspires for your highest good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what would you say to people that that get bugged out with the word faith and religion, right? Like
Yeah,
often we
very
use
interesting,
faith
right?
and religion, and some people are not religious, and they say, "Well, faith that's whatever,"
Right.
yeah, right?
But faith
So
is
how would
not
you explain
religion.
that?
Faith is not necessarily religion. Faith is, again, a belief with an outcome of something that you want. If it, I hear where you're coming from, is that, you know, that faith is normally associated with some sort of a sect or some sort of a secular or a religious community. But the fact is, do you have faith that when you eat your food, you're going to digest it?
Yeah,
You don't hope that it gets digested.
sometime. Depend what I eat.
Yes, depending what you eat. Yes, yes, yes.
But I
But
know what you say. Yes, of course, you have
right,
faith. Like it's a belief. Like what okay, finish your line of thought. So yes, I have faith that
right.
when I eat the
So
food,
there are certain things that
I have
we
the
have.
faith that when I go to bed, I'm gonna sleep.
Well, not yeah, and that also you go with faith that you're going to go to sleep, not with the hope that you're going to go to sleep. Because if you go with the hope that you're going to sleep, you're definitely not going to sleep, because you're going to be thinking about why I'm not going to sleep, right? Or you know what, I didn't eat my medicine today, or I didn't eat this, or I have this work to do tomorrow. But if you go with faith that you're going to sleep, because that's what you're supposed to do, then there's less of that resistance, right? So faith is not necessarily religious based. It is a conviction that you have on yourself, not something else. Normally, faith is associated with I trust in XYZ to be able to do stuff with it. The faith that you have in here is for yourself. It is to yourself. The ability for you to be able to do things the way you want and to attract what you need to for your highest good without an expectation.
Okay.
So it's not faith in religion, faith
Yeah.
in doctrine, it's faith in yourself.
Yes. So what would you say again was the difference between faith and beliefs?
A belief is a fundamental acceptance that you have, not necessarily again religious based, right? So I believe that the world is round because you've been taught, right? Or I believe that I am capable of finishing this task. Now, one is scientifically proven, and so you accept it if you believe in science. The other one is faith based on your own interpretation of your skills and abilities. I have faith I can complete this, right?
Okay.
Now, for instance, we normally, if you go to visit somebody who is not well,
yeah,
right? And we in this unempathetic world, I also almost want to say, where we all wear these masks, we pretend of not giving the truth to yourself or others by using the word hope. So when somebody's not well and you go to see them, although you may know and have spoken to somebody and know, okay, you know what, this guy, this is it. This, you God forbid that that's the case, but you still say that I hope you feel better. Do you really mean that at that point? Right? On the other hand, you could easily say, I have faith things will work out for the best. Right? And now that faith is not religious based, but it's your faith that you are you are asking yourself, and
it's so ingrained in our brain for sure.
Ingrained, we see it so quickly, right? And I've been trying to catch myself to be doing that, right? But absolutely. And so you have that faith. You can say, I have faith you'll get better. That doesn't mean that you're going to go to any religious institution and say, hey, I need that faith to go and make this person better. But what you're saying is that, the doctors are going to look after you to the best of their abilities, that as long as you follow the prescriptions, you're going to be able to come out through this strong. There is no false emotion there. There's no strong false belief in there.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think the differentiation is there.
Yeah. And I think the way you describe it, for me, I hear that like it's something that, because people of faith, like we call that people of faith, people that are very strong link religiously and that pray, for example, that pray God for the healing of their loved one, and they have the faith that God will help them. That's an example I'm giving. And so then that's their own way of expressing faith, right?
Right. But let me give you a different example.
Of course, we have, the whole
Absolutely.
religious background.
It is very attached over there, but I think that their faith goes beyond secular knowledge or beyond religious factors, right? Or sects. Yeah. We all drive cars, right? And we take them to a mechanic, whether it's the dealership or whether it's somebody else, it's still a mechanic. No matter how bad the car goes in, once they give you the car, do you hope that it's going to drive okay and not get into a destruction of some sort, or do you have faith that it's going to drive well?
Depends which mechanic you're going. We're not going to go there, but I had a bad experience. So yes, with that mechanic, I was hoping it would work out, but usually you have faith that they're going to fix it.
That goes back to the thing that we talked about, choice, right?
Yes.
But let's say you went to a dealership, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you went to a dealership, right? And you walked and you got your car back. Do you have hope that it's going to drive properly, or do you have faith?
I have faith.
right? And if you didn't have faith, you wouldn't drive that car, most
Yeah,
likely,
exactly. Exactly.
right? And so that faith, there is no religious based. The
Hmm.
mechanic is not Christian or Jew or
Yeah.
Muslim or
Yeah.
anybody, but you have faith in that institution,
Yeah.
or you have that faith in
I agree
that.
with
So
you.
it's not necessarily religious based. Faith is associated in our mind because that's how we've been brought up, but it is not. It's an individual belief that we have, that I took it to the best mechanic and that mechanic is going to give me.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
if we take that same example of an automobile, then we as human beings are also machines. We're energetic machines with our mind and body and stuff like that. Then why do we rely so much on hope? That hope things go well. I hope things will be better. We need to change that and create more faith within ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you create faith within yourselves, you attract the life that you want. You build that life to your highest self.
Yeah. And that eliminate all the mind possibility that things will not work out. Right.
Right. You know,
Like that
I see
eliminate the
that.
second half. There's one half that you hope that works, and the other half is it might not work. I think it might not work. But when you
Yeah,
say, well, I have faith that this is going to work out, and you're open to all possibilities without limitation, right? It's like, hey,
exactly.
I have
Well,
faith
but
that
I see
whatever,
that.
for me, the way I would say that is I have faith that whatever happened will be for the best of, needs to come, right? Like it's,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
And I see that in my kids, and I see that in my aging parents, right? My kids want to write an exam, and you ask them how the exam went, and they say, "Oh, I hope I did well." Well, why don't you think you did well? And they focus on that one question that they may have not answered properly. Out of the
yeah,
20 questions, they focus on that one, right? You focus, the probability is there that we focus on that negativity, right?
yeah,
With my parents, as soon as the doctor sends them for a test, they're like, "Oh my God, what if I have cancer?" But it's just asking you for a blood test, right? It's not
yeah,
the end of the world. It's a blood test.
yeah,
And how wonderful that all the previous tests have done well. So, like you said, it's all good, right? And so we focus on that negativity, and going back into that thought creates our words creates our actions creates the item, and then we wonder where that's coming from. Very, very powerful. We need to be able to bring that all together and have that faith again within us.
hmm, yeah. And it's and the thought, word, action, and situation. I mean, it's been proven, time and time again that the more you focus on something, the more you will get it, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's positive or negative. It's just the example. Like whoever's listening right now, if we say, well, focus on all the things that are red around you, and then look at all the things, look around you. What is red? This is red, that is red, that's red, that's red, now that, and then you stop, say, okay, what are the things that you saw that were yellow? So I didn't say
Right.
anything that was yellow,
But it's there.
because I was focusing on whatever was red. So my focus is what you thought. You thought were red. Red. What's red? That button's red. That's kind of reddish. That's red. And then you become very narrow focused
Yeah.
because that's what you focus on. So if you whatever we tell our brain, whatever we tell our mind, that's not going to work out, like they're not
Yeah.
going to like me, that's whatever, I'm not going to get that contract, or whatever that is. Well, then your brain is sending those wave of energy that's not
Yeah.
going to work out, you're not going to like me, you're not going to give me the contract,
Yeah.
because we're
And again,
receptors, right? We're sender and receptors. That's we're energy. That energy, that
yeah.
role between us is so powerful that it allows us to create the outcome that our brain is generating. So why do people say, well, I'll always find a parking spot in front of the store or the restaurant that I go? And that's their mindset. I always find a parking spot close by. And little, they find a parking spot. Why? Right? Why?
But
Because that's the
we're
reality
energy
they are
beings, and
experiencing. They have the faith that they will find that parking spot.
exactly. Yeah. And we're energy beings where the focus goes, the energy flows. Right?
Hmm.
It's like water. Water will take the shape of the container that you put it in.
Yeah.
Energy is no different. Where you focus, that's where the energy is going to flow. It's not going to go in the opposite direction. Right? So when we start thinking and refocusing our word of hope, you will find that the person that you're communicating with will also, over a period of time, start responding to you differently. So what I've started doing over the last little while is all of my communications has no word of hope anymore. So even when I send an email out, I don't say, I hope
Mm.
you're well. I say, I
Yeah.
trust you were well, or I trust you had a good weekend. What's the first thing we say when we meet everybody on the after the weekend, through whether it's the virtual
Yeah.
water cooler
Yeah.
or the real, I hope you had a good weekend. Were you hoping, are you suggesting that you have a percentage that you
Something might have
didn't,
went wrong. Yeah.
or something went wrong, or because something went wrong with you, that something could go wrong with them? So how about you turn that around and you say, I trust you had a good weekend.
Well, I love
And
that. And I'm going to work on removing that word out of my vocabulary too. Another one that I have removed is try.
right,
Right? Try
absolutely.
and hope. Let's
Yeah.
try to remove hope out of that vocabulary.
Right. So, and with my kids, right? I don't say, I hope your exam goes well. I say, I have confidence you're going to do well.
Yeah.
And now not only does it make him feel better, but I feel strongly about having that faith that I have the confidence in my child to be able to do better.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're saying, I hope you do better, that means there's a
There's a
probability
chance
that
you
you don't
won't.
think they're
Yeah.
prepared, right?
Yeah.
So change your whole vocabulary, and remember, because you're changing it for somebody else, you're also now internally changing it. So
Mm-hmm.
that becomes, the more you use the word confidence, trust, courage, faith, all of those are positive, higher vibration words that raise your frequency subconsciously now, which
Mm-hmm.
opposed to hope. There's this story that I had read, which really defines us really well as we're sort of coming uh, sort of towards a later part of our conversation. But and people may have heard this in a different context, but there's an old Cherokee Indian who is telling a story to his grandchild, and he goes, I have two opposing fighting factors in my brain all the time, and everybody has this, just not me. And the kid, what is it? And he goes, well, one of them is fear, anger, anxiety, judgment, dread. And the other one is love, courage, confidence, creativity. And the grandfather stops. And the child's like, okay, what's happening over here? And he thinks for a while. And he goes, so grandpa, which one wins? And he goes, the one that you feed.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing, that energy flows where the focus
Yeah.
goes. Which one are you feeding? Because those two beliefs, those two sets of, whether you want to call them beliefs, emotions, whatever they are, they're constantly fighting in your mind,
Of
in
course.
your
Of
body,
course.
right? Which one are you feeding?
Yeah.
Which one are you going towards, right? And so when you are creating hope, like I said, has an expectation, has a fear associated with it. Whereas when you talk about faith, then there is love associated with it, and that's a higher frequency. So which one are you feeding? The more you feed that, and that's why changing that vocabulary is so important, because that may not sound like much, but that's what you're feeding your mind with. And the
Yeah.
more you feed with that, the more change you will see that comes. And that's all part of being that entrepreneur, right? Being an entrepreneur is being a leader, being out there with leading other people within your community, within your organization. And if you can change that so that you're happy from inside, people will start noticing that. Because as energy beings, people tend to see your energy. Are they responding to you in fear, or are they responding to you with love? Are they responding to you with creativity, or are they doing it out of just respect? What is it
Yeah.
that's coming out, right? And so when you want to improve your lifestyle and of your organization, that's what you need. Before the fire, I used to be in that state. I hope things go well. I hope this is not the bank calling. I hope this is not this, because you're always working out of fear.
Yeah.
And when we first started the business and we had this Midas touch, that fear was absent. But what the conclusion I came about is because the fire destroyed more than just the products and my friends, which I was saying. It destroyed this fear in me. It
Hmm.
destroyed this anger that was part of that fear. Because when you have fear, you create anxiety, you create anger, you create frustration. That's all there,
Yeah.
right? And
It's
I
always in the
can
back of
tell
your
you
mind.
that's a difference, because 5 years ago, my kids would not tell me things because their response was that if I tell you anything, you're just going to scream at us. But today, I have a different relationship. And that's what Intrapreneur is about. Do you want that strong relationship, not only just with your employees, but with your family?
Of course, of course.
And that's being an entrepreneur. It's
Yeah.
being inside and outside, totally in equanimity.
Wow. I think that's it. That's there's nothing else we can say about that. I think that would have answered what's your last tip, but I think that was it. I think that's the cherry on the cake. That was perfectly said. And so I'm sure some people might ask, like, how can I reach AlKarim? So here it is. So that's tell us. Also, I know you have like a free gift. So let's see if we can. I don't think we can reel both. So you have a free gift, but with your free gift, explain what would happen with people once they reach out to you.
Yeah, so you can either call me and we'll arrange for a time, or you can go to my website and set up a time for a 30-minute strategy call. And really, the strategy call is very similar to sort of, looking at where were you before, right? What were some of your earlier successes? And
Mhm.
what setbacks have you had? And that's why my site is called Setback to Triumph, because we want to take that setback and move you back to triumph. So, what were those early successes for you like? What was life like? And for me, it was being creative, it was being fun, it was being that person that sort of people went to and said, okay, think outside of the box for me and give me these ideas. And then that's how I built my business initially, right? And all of us will get setbacks. It's
Yeah.
part of life. This is the vicissitudes of life, right? You talked about the ups and downs of life. They're going to come. It's the choice that you make at that point. So I want to find out for you where your setbacks are, and then to be able to show you what that looks like once you come out of your setback. What does
Mhm.
triumph look like for you? And then we come up with a strategy, which is actionable items to be able to say, okay, these are the things that we can do for you to be able to get you to where you want. And everybody is different.
Of
No
course.
five
Yeah.
fingers are the same. So I can't say this is what I'm going to give you, because then that would be like going to
Or go
McDonald's and
library, and you're gonna get this book, not any other book, right? Like
right,
you can't.
exactly.
If you're going to
So
browse
so
books, it's like you don't know which one you're gonna get.
yeah, so that's the whole premises behind doing the strategy call is, can I help you? And there are times where I'll say, hey, look, I don't think this is right for you. I'm not the person, but I may know somebody that I can recommend to you that
Exactly.
may be able to help you better, right? It could be you, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm able to help them, then we'll come up with a strategy. We'll come up with an action plan. We'll come up how we work together and to be able to get you to where I am, because I have my own story and I know that
Yeah.
I was able to move it, right? I went into the depressive mode after I lost everything, but then I was able to come out of it. I now have this equanimity. I live this life. I know what energy is. I know how it can feel to be in what you talked about earlier. The constant nagging or
Yeah.
upsetness or going back to the past and saying, "Well, it happened again. It happened before," and setbacks will happen, right? If you're in this continuous cycle, then there is a break that you need from that cycle. Otherwise, it's like being on a hamster wheel. It's very difficult to get out of it. And that
Yeah.
pattern interrupt is what will allow you to break out. The strategy call will allow us to identify, is there an opportunity for me to work with you to be able to help you come out of that wheel?
Wow, that'll be awesome. Thank you so much. It was such a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you on my show today. I mean, I think I'll have to do like the tip of the day. I usually do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think I'll have to do it all week. Like I might have to
Appreciate
do
it.
more than
Appreciate it.
four. There were
I look forward to hearing them because maybe I'll grab something from there as well.
so many great tips on what you said. And so thank you for being here with me. It was such a pleasure to have you. And just stay there. I'll put you away, but stay there. I'll be right back with you. So, wow, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the show with AlKarim Chatur, because wow, all of this said, it's so simple in some ways. It's so simple. It's just making that decision and then working towards eliminating those thoughts in your mind, like eliminating hope, eliminating try. Listen to yourself when you speak and see and catch yourself when you're doing it, and then eventually it'll become easier after you catch yourself hearing it or reading it. Then you'll say, oh yeah, I hope you're having a great weekend. No, I wish you a wonderful weekend. I'm certain that you'll have an amazing weekend. Like, change the word. I have faith that, your weekend will be wonderful. And by changing your way you talk, you'll change the way you think, you'll change the way you talk, and your action are going to be reflecting these positive changes in your life, and you'll become an entrepreneur also, and you will be able to handle your life. So again, before we go away, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to click on the little bell to get the message whenever I have a new one. And you can also, if you want to know more about what I do, and if you feel that you'll be helped by the way I can introduce you to my coaching business, or if you have any question, you can book a call with me, and I would be happy to spend 30 minutes, half an hour, 30, 45 minutes with you to explore a little bit of what you do. So until next time, be kind to one another. I'll be right here next week at noon Pacific, like always. Take care.